Hey folks, Adam McIntosh here, and thankfully I'm recording this video from my very own apartment. I finally made it back to Finland. Quick backstory if you're new here, I was stuck in China, Beijing, for the past 6 weeks. I was supposed to be there for 3, ended up there for 3 more weeks due to the coronavirus outbreak and subsequent flight cancellations. If you're also watching this video, it's the first video I've ever watched here. Usually I don't talk about my own personal life very much, unless it's related to creativity in some way. But this is just one of those stories that I feel like I need to talk about. It was a unique situation, and I did try to stay creative, tried to stay productive in that whole situation. So I'll be sharing some photos with you from that trip, specifically related to the coronavirus outbreak towards the end of this video. You should go check out the other video I made. I did already make a video on this situation from China, and that will give a lot more context onto how things were there. I'll go over a little bit more now on how things ended up and how I ended up back home and all those kind of things. So yeah, basically with the last time that I recorded the video from China was that I had just had 1 flight cancellation at that point. So I had a pre-booked flight home. I was supposed to come home, I believe, on the 12th of February, and I just got home like 1 day ago now as of recording this video, and you'll see it published tomorrow. So yeah, basically at that point my mood was quite good. It was kind of just one of those like, well, there's nothing I can do about it type scenarios, and my spirits were still high. I wasn't kind of like losing my mind yet, and maybe weren't as quite bored as what ended up happening. So that long story short, I ran into another flight cancellation. My original one, so yeah, like I said, I was supposed to be home on the 12th. They canceled that and they rebooked me for March the 2nd. So yeah, February the 12th became March the 2nd coming home. As I say, I had brought flights home. I didn't actually have money for extra flights, or at least I don't think I did. And then just a week or so after that, they canceled again, and were looking to book me home April the 1st, that would be another 7 weeks than my intended stay, which I couldn't afford to do for a number of reasons. So money was a big concern of mine, mostly because I was actually just missing work. I was supposed to be back at work halfway through February, and now I was looking to be back at work from April the 1st. So basically I'm in another country, supposed to be on holiday, which obviously didn't turn out to be much of a holiday. And I'm missing work. I can't afford to be paying all my rent and bills in Finland here, and also be away in China, still having my living expenses there also. Thankfully, I was with my brother and his girlfriend, who were amazing, and not only in a way of being, supportive with money and putting me up in their house, but just like emotionally and that kind of thing too. Like I can't imagine, more perfect people to be trapped in a house with, basically. So that was pretty ideal. Thankfully now they continue to be safe and healthy, and yeah, I've made it home. And yeah, can kind of start to continue life as usual. So I think that's about as much context as I can kind of give on that front. Like I say, go watch the other video that gives far more context on how things were day-to-day life. From that video onwards, basically things got just kind of progressively worse. I think when they canceled my flight again, and I saw no other way home until April the 1st, I got quite agitated. Especially after I made a number of calls to basically everybody that I could think of, as far as like authority was concerned. So my insurance companies, the visa consulates and those kind of things, immigration, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, all those kind of organizations. And I did it for 2 countries. So I was born in New Zealand, and I'm a citizen there still, but I have a permanent residence in Finland and have been living here for a number of years. So I did it for both countries. So I was contacting a bunch of people. It took me, a couple of days to get hold of everybody with the time zone changes and everything like that. And the answer from everybody was essentially the same, which was, you're in an unfortunate situation. We can't do much about it. So that was pretty frustrating. And I'm pretty pissed off about some of it, to be honest, and I don't want to complain too much in this video, but it was really surprising to me how little systems were in place to help somebody who, at that time, I was financially stuck, you know. Like I said, I pre-booked my flights back home. I didn't have extra money for extra flights, or at least I didn't think I did. I had a credit card, and I had, it turned out I had 3 more euros than what I needed to buy a flight back home. I ended up buying flights back home through Russia. I went through Moscow and then on to Finland because there was one airline still flying. They also canceled flights, condensed everything into one. So I was kind of maybe lucky to get out. I also don't know how long they're going to continue to fly, whether they're going to start canceling more flights or to cease flying out of China altogether. I don't know. So I was just kind of looking to get out as soon as possible once I realized I had some money on the credit card. So not ideal, but I had to go through that. But yeah, what was interesting to me was that there was no system in place to help, not just myself. I don't really take it personally, but I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of other people in worse situations than what I was. Like I say, I was fortunate to be living with my brother and his girlfriend, so I had that kind of thing covered. But I was sort of thinking, like, what happened if I had to afford a hotel for an extra 3 weeks or an extra 7 weeks if I was to have to rely on my flight back home on April the 1st and things like that. And it was interesting to me. Obviously, it's a global problem at this point, and it seems as though there were very little systems put in place to help people that were in need. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a politician. I'm just a civilian. That was the situation I was in. It felt pretty bad, and it felt, yeah, I don't know. You pay a lot of taxes to these countries and everything else, and I don't know. This is just me being pissed off, but at the end of the day, I made it home, so I'll forget about it. Like I say, I don't want to complain too much on this video. Outside of that, yeah, so basically the security and everything around the city kind of just got a bit tighter, so started to see more and more communities locked down. Same sort of stuff which I would have described in the other video, just tighter, basically more paperwork, more questions, more strict entry on even, you know, like your own home. So the community that we were staying in, you know, we had to then go and register our passports to get these cards. If you didn't have a card, you couldn't enter the building. I didn't have my passport at the time because what I had to do at that point was to go and register for another visa or a visa extension because my flights were cancelled. I couldn't fly out before my visa expired, so I had to hand over my passport. That caused a problem. So yeah, just all that kind of stuff just got kind of worse and worse, and with it, just my mental deterioration kind of got worse, I guess. I mean, nothing too serious, just basically boredom and frustration. And I'm usually quite a busy person, and I like to be out and about, and you know, we were sort of forced inside. It was like you couldn't really go outside. There was nothing to go outside for. And then, of course, there's all the paranoias of wanting to stay healthy and not get sick. And actually, one of my biggest paranoias was to just get like a common cold and then have symptoms of a flu or a cold, and then, you know, start to worry that I'm going to get other people sick, especially my family there, and then end up wanting to go to a hospital or something, and then ending up in that kind of environment. So all these weird little paranoias that you, on a day-to-day basis, never really think about, they really crept into your head. And yeah, so now I'm back. I've just taken the past like day or two pretty quietly and just, yeah, kind of trying to readjust. There's little things in my head that are still sort of stuck there. They're fading now, but you know, when I first came back, I was still like weird about touching a handrail or a door handle because I've just spent the past 6 weeks worrying about that kind of stuff. Even stepping outside without a mask on, like in Finland, was like, it just kind of went off in my head for a split second before I caught myself thinking like, oh yeah, I don't really need it. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, there's so many questions that could be asked. If you want to ask questions, please just leave them in the comments below. I'll get to those. Obviously, this whole thing's still ongoing. I thankfully got out of it. There's a lot of people who haven't, and my thoughts go out to those people, including, you know, just my brother and his girlfriend and their family over there and that kind of thing too, because even though they're well and healthy, they're still being affected by it. People can't work, people aren't earning money. buying vegetables is hard because people aren't importing fruit and vegetables, or the provinces are closed, so you're not getting like the transport between the provinces of goods and that sort of thing as well. So yeah, even if you're well and healthy, you're definitely being affected. And you know, obviously China's not the only place being affected anymore. So yeah, pretty crazy situation. Like I say, I have my complaints, and I'm very fortunate to be home. That doesn't mean that I'm not considering all the other people that are affected. So yeah, so let's move on from there. I do want to talk about the creative side. What I tried to do was sort of capture the vibe. I spoke about it a little bit in the last video. I wanted to capture a vibe of the city, or the vibe of the coronavirus outbreak, and that's not something I have a lot of experience with. I wouldn't, you know, call myself a journalist photographer, but usually I take a lot of street photography, almost always including people, and there just wasn't a lot of people out there. So that kind of was a bit of a bummer, to be honest, because I was hoping to come back with a lot of work. I got one day where I was able to photograph where everything was just kind of normal. That was the day before really the whole country's vibe changed due to the public service announcements and the cancellation of the Chinese New Year and its festivities. So yeah, what I set out to do was just kind of capture the vibe of the city and the whole outbreak situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flash up those photos and kind of just give you a little bit of a context as well. I would like to do something with them, maybe like make a zine or something like that. I don't know if there's a lot of interest for that kind of thing, but I think, you know, individually these photos aren't great, I don't think, because I didn't think about it so much as, you know, trying to capture this one great individual photo, whereas that's the way I usually look at things when I'm out on the street. But this rather, I was more concerned about building a photo story, and, you know, to be able to view this work and get that sense, I knew that it would need a number of photos, and so I want to be able to display them in a way that you can see all those photos together. So I'm thinking a zine might be a good idea if there's any interest. Otherwise, I'm going to put some of them in this video, and it's not going to be all of them, but because there's quite a large number. And yeah, they're crudely edited too at this point too, so forgive that. I just want to put it out there, and I want to hear you guys' suggestions too. If you think a zine is a good idea, or if you have any other ideas on ways of displaying those, maybe I'll just put them all in an individual video or something like that. But if you have ideas, let me know, and I would definitely love to hear those and consider them. Only other thing I think that really went on of notability, if I'm not forgetting anything, is that I actually got the chance to speak with a reporter from HBL, one of the, I think it's the biggest Swedish media newspaper and online newspaper in Finland. Forgive me if I'm wrong saying that, but, and I don't know if the gentleman that I spoke to really wants me to shout him out, but I had a really good time talking to a reporter from that newspaper. A mutual friend put us in touch. And that was just really good. Like, we got to have a video call, and I got to speak with somebody from Finland and somebody else outside of the apartment that I was basically locked up in. And yeah, it was cool. A really nice guy, wrote a really, you know, just like a tasteful piece, didn't try to spin it in any weird way or anything like that, and was very helpful in a number of ways. And yeah, published some of my photos and everything in there. So it was like, that was really cool, like really cool. And it just gave me something to focus on for a day. Other than that, yeah, my friends and even strangers from the internet have been hugely, hugely helpful. Everything down to, you know, sending me information on who to call, sending their well wishes and asking, you know, if I'm okay, to offering money, to whatever. Yeah, that outpouring has been really cool. And especially when, like I say, your country or countries seem like they're failing you a little bit. It was really good to know that there were people looking out for me, and I will be forever grateful for that. I can't name you all because it was far too many, but you know who you are. And yeah, thank you. And yeah, from there, I'll flash up some photos. I'm gonna give you some context on those. And yeah, let's just get right into it. So first up, there are some empty streets. They're, again, like I said, they're not super interesting photos by themselves, but it's just something, you know, there was the reality there, you know. And if you know Beijing at all, maybe you do recognize some of these streets. Some of these streets are very just like busy CBD streets. Others are usually very busy tourist streets. And that's where I took the photos of a lot of these closed doors and these empty shop windows. The red posters that you see and the red lanterns, they are for the Chinese New Year. And obviously that's a huge celebration for China, and the fact that that was cancelled, you can imagine that's just you know, just something huge in the country that's probably unheard of, and I'm sure it had a huge effect on many things and many people in the country. So I tried to capture a bit of that too, you know, these posters falling off the walls or these posters on the ground, you know, just to sort of signify that, you know, those things were left up probably longer than they should have been or would have been, and that whole celebration just never really happened. Here I managed to capture some people installing a new security booth, so there was a lot of security popping up around the different communities and the streets around the city. These people were installing a new booth to fit security in there. The security were out on the street. There were a lot of them, anywhere from volunteers to security to police to army. I tried to capture some of those people. I did want to capture the people that were out on the street, which, yeah, like I say, was security, delivery drivers, who are obviously delivering all the food and everything around the city, and the city workers. I also wanted to capture a number of items which are usually, you know, sort of always in use in Beijing. You know, things like street sweeper, brooms, items left around on the street, shop fronts which have been closed down, and of course bicycles. One funny note that I did manage to capture, which was kind of by accident at first when I was photographing these shop windows, is that I started to see my reflection in those, and it was unintentional at first. I just noticed it later. The irony in that is that I actually also went to a Vivian Maier exhibition just before I left for China, so it was sort of funny to see that appear in these photos, and I kind of liked it, and once I noticed it was there, I actually tried for it a little bit more. It was something I kind of wish I'd actually done even more so of, but I you know, I didn't want to sort of take too much inspiration from the whole Vivian Maier thing. I just thought it was quite interesting, and I do feel like it really gives you this vibe of being alone in a city, and you know, this is kind of a ghostly vibe of a reflection in the windows there, which are usually, like I say, very busy spots, tourist spots, and those kind of things. These images here, I just wanted to be able to show, you know, some of the more traditional China, but then also the authority and the emergency services that are in place around the city. But yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed those photos. Please do let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Really interested in hearing those. And I think this is the last video I'll make on the whole coronavirus situation. Like I say, I'm home now. For me, thankfully, it's over. And hopefully it'll be over for everybody else soon too. I will leave links to everything down below, like the article. It is in Swedish. If you don't speak Swedish, Google Translate works really well on Swedish, so there's that. You can go check that out. Videos in the future will be a lot more lighthearted and a lot more positive. China is still a very beautiful place with, yeah, beautiful people, amazing culture. I did get to photograph a little bit on the street when I was there. I kind of tried to just make use of what I had and the few people that were out. And of course, yeah, like I mentioned, the one day that I had to photograph normally before everything went south. So I will make videos on those. I will display some of those photos to you. You can actually check some of them out. Some of them are slowly starting to appear on my Instagram, which you can follow at macintosh.adam. And yeah, I think that's just about it. I've got some other interesting videos coming up in the future, completely unrelated to photography, but still on the topic of creativity. So I'm looking forward to getting those out to you. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, stay safe out there. Happy shooting. And yeah, see you soon. Peace.